Hello, I'm Will Howard, and we're in one of the most beautiful, historic, and sultry cities in the South. We're in Savannah, Georgia, and that beautiful fountain behind us is the fountain in Forsyth Park. It was built in 1858.
Welcome to Savannah, Georgia, hostess city of the South and American Paris. I'm John Duncan, Professor Emeritus at Armstrong Atlantic State University, where I taught Savannah history for 32 years. Join me on a romantic tour of the elegant city of Savannah, one of America's most historic and beautiful cities. Savannah was founded in 1733 by the great English philanthropist James Edward Oglethorpe. Early Savannah was unique in 4 or 5 prohibitions: no rum, no lawyers, no blacks, no land ownership over 500 acres, and no Catholics. Savannah for most of the 18th century was economically depressed, and it was not until the 1790s that Eli Whitney came to Savannah, to Mulberry Grove, learned all about cotton, and overnight he invented his cotton engine, or cotton gin for short. And the cotton kingdom spread from the Atlantic seaboard all the way to Texas. Now, the cotton made Savannah, Savannah. Great fortunes were made by the great cotton factors, and for the first time we get fabulous architecture in Savannah. In 1886, the Savannah Cotton Exchange was built over the foot of Drayton Street. It was the first building in Savannah built over air rights. Cotton was stored in the great warehouses beside the exchange on River Street, where it was loaded aboard the sailing ships that carried it all over the world. Today, these warehouses have been converted into restaurants, bars, and boutiques. It is one of the many attractions visitors love about Savannah.
There's been a lot of books written about Savannah, in Savannah, and there's been a lot of movies that have been filmed here, but none as famous as the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and then the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Savannah had changed very little since the Civil War, until a single book was published in 1994 by John Barrett, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It has been published in 29 foreign languages, and never has a book so impacted a city. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 216 weeks. That's 4 years, 2 months, longest run in its history.
I was enchanted. In fact, I was seduced by the city of Savannah. People asked me, how did you choose Savannah? It chose me that day. And from then on as well. When I went over the bridge into Savannah from South Carolina, I was overcome by the beauty of the place. Spectacular beauty. I've never been in a place like this. The greenery, the vegetation surround on all sides, above, underfoot, wherever. And the mansions were absolutely spectacular. They were 19th century, primarily 19th century Victorian mansions and townhouses and little 18th century wooden dwellings. I was having the time of my life. I loved being there. I loved the stories. I loved the people. I loved writing about Savannah. But it's about a very strange circumstance. And it turned out to be widely popular. So I was delighted and totally surprised, taken by surprise. And then the movie came out. I thought Clint Eastwood did a very good job with it. And I enjoyed it. And a lot of people like it very much. In the movie, John Cusack plays me. I'm a bit changed in it. The movie suggests that I went to Savannah to write a piece for Town and Country magazine, which I'd never written for. At the heart of my book, there's a story of a murder case. Jim Williams had shot Danny Hansford, a younger man, in his house, the most beautiful house in Savannah, Mercer House. And a lot of my friends and acquaintances went to Savannah really because of the book. And I am delighted to say that not one single person has been disappointed by what they found in Savannah. Savannah does not disappoint.
Well, the movie came about after the book was such a tremendous success and being on the bestseller list that broke all records for fiction and nonfiction books. And Warner Brothers decided to do the movie with Clint Eastwood directing it, and they came to Savannah. During the shooting, Mr. Eastwood told me that he would like for me to play the role of the judge, which I thought was a joke to start with, but he was serious. Our friendship with Jim Williams went back to when we bought Armstrong House from him to use as a law office. And we had a very pleasant relationship with Mr. Williams. He lived in Mercer House, but he had done a lot of work in Armstrong House and had used it for showing his European antiques. I had previously been in Gingerbread Man, which was written by John Gresham, not as a book. He wrote it for a television series, and Hollywood bought it up and had it directed here in Savannah by Robert Altman. I played the senior partner in the law firm. I was asked by Robert Redford to play a role in The Legend of Bagger Vance, which was also shot in Savannah. I played the role of a boarder in the boarding house scene. It took about 2 days to shoot that one scene. Clint Eastwood would have shot it in about an hour.
The Davenport House Museum tells the story of successful craftsman Isaiah Davenport and his household in 1820 Savannah. But that's just the beginning of the story. The house was the catalyst for the historic preservation movement which has transformed the city. In the mid-20th century, the house, which had become a tenement, was threatened with demolition during a time when many of Savannah's historic buildings were being torn down. Thanks to the effort of 7 Savannah ladies and other preservation-minded citizens, the Davenport House was saved and Historic Savannah Foundation formed. In 2005, the museum received the prestigious Preserve America Presidential Award for its period-accurate restoration and the community spiritedness that made it happen. Today, the Davenport House is a house museum, as well as a beacon of historic preservation. It is open daily for tours and for special events. I look forward to seeing you at the Davenport House here on Columbia Square very soon.
My wife Ginger and I bought this house on Monterey Square in 1976. We have a 13 marble step commute to our business, V&J Duncan, Antique Maps, Prints, and Books.
I'm Ginger Duncan, and this is V&J Duncan, Antique Maps, Prints, and Books. In the shop, you'll find gorgeous old botanicals, animals, and bird prints. There are maps and views of every state and most countries. There are college prints, old books, and lovely leather-bound volumes, and even new Savannah books, including Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, signed by the author. If you're looking for a gift, remember, the past makes a great present.
The 1950s and the 1960s were destructive to most American cities, and Savannah was no exception. In 1954, Savannahans held a macabre Halloween ball right before the old city market was torn down. But today, City Market area is lively, hot attractions at night, and anytime during the day you can see artists working on the first and second floors.
Hi, I'm Chuck Hamilton. This is the A.T. Hun Art Gallery. We have about 30 crazy artists that love to meet people and be complimented in person. We are pet and food friendly, so please come on in and experience the A.T. Hun Art Gallery.
One of the most exciting things to see is the upstairs artists creating their masterpieces. And for those with tired feet, there's even an elevator. There are photographers, sculptures, stained glass works, wood crafting, artists painting in oil, watercolor, and acrylic.
This is First African Baptist Church, the oldest black church in North America. The building built by slaves. The gentleman that laid the first brick laid the last. The balcony hold pews that actually were built by slaves. They have the oldest information in this building. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing. Downstairs, the air holes that the people, when they hid beneath the floors, they were able to use are actually African prayer symbols. This building was built during the night hours. It was also not only used as a place of worship, but it was used as a place to help out on the Underground Railroad. One of the greatest missions I believe ever taken out and carried through was handled beneath the floors of First African Baptist Church. There are many items in here that now stands as proof of the Underground Railroad. In the ceiling of the church is a code that this building is used as a safe place, and that code is 9-patch. 9-patch is a quilt symbol that was used during the Underground Railroad to identify safe places. So that 9-patch was placed right in the ceiling of the First African Baptist Church in plain view. If you're interested in getting a tour of this church, you're welcome to come to First African Baptist on Franklin Square, or you can call 233-6597, and you will be welcome to have a tour.
We're standing in Chippewa Square, one of many squares in downtown Savannah. This one is famous for two things. The statue behind me, which is General James Oglethorpe, who was founder of Savannah, and the second is a movie that was filmed right here in this square, and on the other side of this square was a bench where Forrest Gump sat. The bench has been removed because the police were afraid that so many people would try to get pictures taken on the bench it would block traffic.
Hey! Well, my mom always said to get on the white trolley. She said that's the best way to see Savannah. Now here comes the white trolley right now. Hello.
Come on aboard, Forrest.
Fine, how you doing? Is this the old Savannah trolley?
The old Savannah Georgia, you got it. Come on aboard, talk to these people.
Okay, I'm thinking about taking a ride. I'm looking for Lieutenant Dan. Have you seen him anywhere?
He'll be around here somewhere. He knows where the place is, right?
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we're right around Lickwood.
Okay.
Right now.
So this is Chippewa Square?
This is Chippewa Square, and you ought to recognize it.
That's right.
Because if you're looking for us on the left side, you see that where that flowers are right there? That's where your bench was.
That's what Tom Hanks portrayed me in that movie.
That's right.
I thought he did a fine job.
Yeah, yeah.
They said he did such a good job, he got to meet this man named Oscar.
Man, a guy named Oscar, yeah, yeah.
Oh, there's Lieutenant Dan.
Oh, okay, well, you better go there.
Well, thanks for the trolley ride.
Let me out here. You're worried.
Have a nice day. Okay.
Savannah is also known for being one of the spookiest cities in the United States. Just check this out. We're in Colonial Cemetery, home of the American Revolution from 1775 to 1783. Some of our guests in here tonight.
Very interesting thing here occurred here October 10th of 1832. You see James Jones Stark of Glynn County, formerly of Savannah, was shot at the City Hotel right here by a Dr. Philip Minus through the breast and almost instantaneously expired. What transpired was Minus entered the bar and saw James Jones Stark sitting at the bar itself at a table with his friends. And he saw him and reached for his gun. And the bullet actually ricocheted and hit the door and made the door fall off its hinge. And they actually carried Stark himself on that door out of the City Hotel.
This cemetery is also locally known as Paranormal Center, where they hear all kinds of ghost stories and noises and everything. During the Civil War, the Union soldiers encamped here, and some say that they can actually come out here at midnight and hear the rattling of their gear late at night.
Savannah has been called a place of live oaks and dead people. And we find ourselves here in Colonial Cemetery that was used by Savannahans from 1750 until 1853. Now, what we have here are large vaults, and it in fact reminds us of New Orleans, where in fact you are required to be buried above ground. But what we have here are vaults with large rooms underneath these tombs, large enough to hold generations of Savannah families. And a number of important people are buried here in Colonial Cemetery. And one is Richard Henry Wiles' brother, James Wiles, who died in a duel in 1815. Another of Savannah's famous cemeteries is Bonaventure Cemetery on the banks of the Wilmington River. Now, originally the property was the home of the Tatnall family, but Christmas time 1800, the big house caught fire during a dinner party. The colonel simply ordered the table out onto the lawn, and legend has it that the dinner guests finished their meals watching the house burn to the ground. Now, a couple of important grave sites out at Bonaventure. In fact, at the very entrance to Bonaventure is the William Gaston tomb. Now, William Gaston was a bachelor banker here in Savannah, and he loved to entertain in life. And when he died, his tomb was a receiving vault, so that when visitors came to Savannah and died, they visited with Mr. Gaston until arrangements could be made with their respective families. Another famous grave at Bonaventure is that of Johnny Mercer, Savannah's most famous lyricist. Johnny wrote 1,000 songs. He wrote for 90 movies and was the first of only 3 men that won 4 Oscars. The most famous, I guess, of his songs is Moon River, which he won in 1961. Johnny died of a brain hemorrhage in 1976, and he asked to be buried in his beloved Savannah. Now, as you can see, Bonaventure is enclosed with a fence. People just die to get in. Indeed, Savannians believe to be buried in Bonaventure is almost as good as being alive anywhere else. Tybee Island lies at the mouth of the Savannah River. The word Tybee is an Indian word for salt, for here the Indians came for their yearly supply of salt from the salt flats. It's also the location of the historic Tybee Island Lighthouse. The first Tybee Lighthouse was one of the first public structures in Georgia. The current lighthouse was built in 1773, but it was partially destroyed by the Irish Jasper Greens during the Civil War. But after the war, it was repaired and today is one of the famous lighthouses on the eastern seaboard. And if you have the energy, you can climb all the way to the top. Directly across the street is the Tybee Island Museum, displaying artifacts from Indian times to the present.
And we were out 4 days. We brought in about 400 pounds. And that's below average of what we normally catch, but the size of the shrimp, which are 2630s, which is large shrimp, we get good money for them. So we can afford to work on that small of amount. Usually our average, that's what we go for, is 200 to 300 pounds a day. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. I like the shrimp. Also, I like to eat them.
Shrimping, to me, I love it. I've been doing it for about 18 years. It's been a great living for me. I enjoy doing it. I love to eat shrimp, fried, smothered, whatever. It tastes good. I love fish. I just love the seafood business. I love it all.
Around 1808, Fort Jackson was started as a brick fortification structure under authorization of Thomas Jefferson to reinforce the entire East Coast. Fort Jackson is actually named after not Andrew or Stonewall, but actually named after James Jackson, a state icon. Fort Jackson would serve as the headquarters for the Savannah River for the Confederacy from 1861 to 64, and they effectively did this keeping out a 62 Union ship blockade. Then in late December of 1864, William Tecumseh Sherman of the Union Army came to Savannah with 60 to 70,000 troops. The Confederacy only had 8 to 9,000. Being greatly outnumbered, they had to evacuate Fort Jackson, and then the Union would occupy Fort Jackson for about 3 months. Fort Jackson is open 9 to 5, 7 days a week, closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
And lastly, don't forget River Street, where you can get great shopping, terrific restaurants, and a fantastic cruise on the Savannah River. This is Will Howard signing off in Savannah, Georgia.
I love shopping at River Street. They have all kinds of shops.
Yes, and they're all independently owned too.
I'm Captain Jonathan Clawton, owner of the River Street Riverboat Company, and I'd like to welcome you to Savannah. Come down and experience a variety of day and evening cruises on board the Savannah River Queen and her sister ship, the Georgia Queen. For entertainment, dining, and gracious southern hospitality, take a leisurely day or evening cruise with us along the historic Savannah River. Enjoy southern dining from old family recipes and wonderful sightseeing along the way. So come on down for fun on the river and celebrate with us. A night in Savannah you won't forget. Call or visit us online and check out our money-saving combo tours. 9 East River Street in the heart of Savannah's downtown. The ultimate Savannah experience.